Welcome back to Brojo Online Podcast. Today I'm going to go a little out of my lane and talk about parenting. I'm not a parenting expert by any means, but I have been involved in the development of adults, and I've seen clear trends as to how they were parented and what that led to in terms of their confidence as adults. And as a result, I have some ideas on what would raise a kid to be a confident kid as opposed to what is likely to kill their confidence when they grow up. Now, let's talk about what kills confidence. So, if the previous section was about what to do, here's a bit of what not to do. Again, just my opinion. Being punished for being yourself, that's never good for confidence. So, whenever you being you gets punished, and I don't mean it gets a negative reaction, but I mean you get a harmful reaction. All right, so somebody disagreeing with me because I painted my face green is not punishment. But somebody shaming me in front of the whole family and calling me a bad child is. If your kid's a bit weird, a bit odd, a bit outside the box, you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to pretend you like it. Just don't hurt them for it. Emotional suppression. I think we've already talked this to death, actually. But if you don't let your kid experience and express emotions, if they feel that they are unsafe to do so and must hide them and force them down, at the very least, you're just not going to have your kid come to you with their issues. You know, there's a family friend of ours just found out that her kid was bullied for like the last 4 years and the kid never said anything to her. Now, I'm not blaming the parent, but obviously the kid did not feel safe bringing this to the parent for some reason. If you teach your kids that like certain emotions are not going to be received well by you, then they're not going to bring any topic to you that requires them feeling that emotion. You know, if you want to have the kind of teenager that's going to come and talk to you before they have sex for the first time, or you want to have the teenager that's going to admit to you that they took your car out, or you want to have the kind of adult that actually wants to come and visit their parents, emotional suppression is going to kill all of that. All right. They have to be allowed to feel, even if they're not allowed to act on it all the time. Lacking understanding is tough for confidence. You don't need to be certain to be confident, but you do need to have the option of exploring. And if you're not allowed to know why things happen, if any sort of curiosity is killed, stillborn, then your confidence dies with it. So if you refuse to deign to explain yourself to your kids, and if you never talk them through why something's happening, you never let them ask questions about what the rules are, you never let them challenge your authority in any way, they don't become more confident as a result of that. Okay, they become compliant and conformist, which is not confident. It's the kind of thing that's going to lead them to have crappy jobs or get into a relationship with an abusive, manipulative person or miss out on great opportunities because it requires some risk. Let your kids ask questions, challenge your authority, put you on trial and make you explain yourself. You know, if your kid goes, well, why can't I have chocolate but you can? Why can't they have chocolate when you can? It's a fucking fair question. Answer it. And if you don't have a good answer, maybe you should stop eating chocolate, right? Like, let them explore and challenge, but that doesn't mean they get to win. Sometimes it'd be like, well, it's still the way things are, but thanks for your questions. Instability and unpredictability, especially for children. This is before they develop the resilience to deal with this stuff, they need to have a safe environment to practice. So if you have inconsistent boundaries, if being around you is like walking on eggshells, you never know what you're going to do next. If your reactions are inconsistent, one day something gets praised, the next day it gets punished. Boundary gets set, but it doesn't get enforced. You say you're going to do something, you don't follow through. That makes the kid's world very unstable, right? Chaotic, and they're going to feel this need to try and organize it and control it and make it stable again, which will probably lead to people pleasing or shutting down. The world's going to give them enough challenge. They don't need that challenge at home, right? In fact, if you have a safe, predictable, reliable environment at home, then they'll know what that looks like and they'll be able to see when they're not in that. If they have a safe, predictable, emotional relationship with you, they'll know when they're dating someone who isn't safe and emotionally predictable. They'll have a reference point. A lot of people seem to think in parenting that you've got to give them this hard knocks approach. at home to prepare them for real life, but that's just not the case. They need a reference point of what healthy is at home so that when they go out into the real world, they know what unhealthy looks like. It's what's amazing with my daughter is we're very honest with her. We are frankly the most honest parents I know of. All right. We don't lie to her about shit, anything. No matter how much fucking conflict it causes to let her know the truth of the matter, we always choose that option. And I was worried that maybe she might get naive and not know what really lying is and that she'd be easier to manipulate. But the opposite has occurred, as I hoped it would, which is she spots liars very easily. She's actually quite skeptical of other people. And I realized that because she has that honesty at home, when somebody's dishonest, it stands out to her. She has a good radar for it because it goes bing, like, that's not what I see at home. What the hell is this? She actually has a sense for dishonesty that most adults don't have because she has that reference point. So again, you don't try to make the home life a recreation of the hardships of the real world. You want to make it a reference point for healthiness so that when she goes out into the real world, she knows the difference. Using fear and shame as a control technique. I don't know if I should really need to explain this one, but making them do what you want by guilt tripping them or scaring them into do it, that's not going to make a confident kid. I don't know why anyone would think that would. That's going to basically provoke insecurity, isn't it? Low self worth. They're going to find it very difficult to make decisions for themselves because they're just constantly trying to avoid difficult emotions with you. Having the moral code enforced, this is a challenging one for all parents. All parents think the way I believe the world should work is what I should pass on to my kid. I should force that onto them. I mean, I see kids being taken to church before the age of 5. And this has been an interesting one for like me and my wife because I'm atheist and she's Catholic. And we've had a lot of debates before, even having a kid, of what are we going to do about this difference we have? Well, firstly, we don't actually have that much difference in moral code. It's just she believes in the Bible, I don't, but our values are pretty similar. But what we decided was we're going to let Chloe choose for herself. And that was as hard for me as it was for Lucy. I'd love to just get Chloe going down the science track and, using sort of rationality and skeptical thinking and so on. But I have to accept that if she decides that angels are real, I'm going to let her, right? And my wife's the same. Like we go on some things for church, like events or whatever, but she's not having that pushed on her. We're not forcing Bible knowledge onto her. If she wants to know about it, she can ask and she can look into it herself. She might end up being a Muslim. She might end up being Buddhist. She might end up being a Satanist. We're going to let her figure it out for herself because to force it on her would just be for our convenience, our conformity, our sense of control. And that's not a good reason to do it. We have to trust that the kid, through experience, through helpful and harmful experiences, will decide what's right and wrong for themselves. And they don't need us to force that on them. Preventing healthy risk taking. So, speaking to the helicopter type parents now, if you don't let your kid figure out the boundaries, play on the playground to see what they're capable of and what they're not by falling, to see what happens when they hang out with the wrong people for a little bit, and so on, we have to allow some risk taking. Now, it doesn't mean you allow them to endanger their lives, but I think what I see in parents these days is the boundary as to what's life threatening is way too close in. Like they think anything being out of sight of the parent is life threatening. And at some point, you have to let the kid take risk. And this is where the lighthouse approach, I think, is really good, is let them take risk while you're watching. It's as simple as that. There's so many times where I'm on the playground or have been in the past with my daughter, and I'm just cringing as I watch what she's doing. And I'm just like, oh my God, like a fall wouldn't kill her at this point, but my God, she's too small to be doing that. And the desire to tell her to stop and the desire to say, be careful, which is the most pointless thing a parent can say. That the urge was in me so strongly, and I just had to resist it and push back because I knew, just statistically speaking, I've got to let her take risks. That for her development, for her healthy adulthood, she needs to take the risk now while I'm scared. And already I'm seeing great results from that. Like she is so capable when it comes to climbing and she can fall really well. She falls like a stuntman. She doesn't fall like a fucking wooden door like I see some kids do, where they just take the most injury they possibly can. They don't even know how to put their hands out. My daughter like roll falls, like she's been trained because we let her fall. We let her take risks. And yeah, she's always got bloody knees. She's always got bruises and stuff. She's always got superficial injuries. But interestingly, so far, no major injuries. She doesn't go too far beyond. She's sometimes a little overconfident, and there are times we've got to rein it in. We went on a bush walk and there was like a cliff with no fence, and she's running alongside it with lots of tree roots. Yeah, I stopped her there because that's too much, right? I don't let her take too much risk where she actually threatens her life. But before I stop her from doing something, I do ask myself, is her life actually in danger? Or is this going to be a serious, like, back-breaking injury? Or do I need to just let her, like, take the risk of having a little cry because she might get a bit hurt? If you want a confident adult, they need to know how to take risks. They need to be intelligent when it comes to risk taking, which means they need to have a lot of experience of getting it right and getting it wrong. Coddling and validating victimhood. There's a difference between being gentle and supportive and being enabling of a unhealthy victimhood mentality. So if a kid comes to you and says, "Oh, Johnny was mean to me," saying, "Oh, that must be upsetting. Come on, have a hug." That's fine. But saying, "Yo, my God, did Johnny do that here? I'm going to email his parents. Where's the school teacher?" That's coddling. That's him playing to victimhood. The kid needs to know that they're going to have problems in life and that you'll be there for a hug, but you're not the problem solver. That they're going to have to solve the problem, or just sometimes they're going to have to eat shit because that's the deal everyone has in life. Sometimes we just don't get our way. It's important that they sometimes lose the race and that they sometimes hear no and that sometimes people don't like them. It's important for them to have those experiences, but they don't have to have those experiences alone and unsupported. Right? You get that combination as they have the hardships of life, but they always have the love and the healthy support base at home. So they're never sort of too far from a place to go and heal. And yet you're not going to go out like a white knight and fight all their battles for them and solve all the problems for them, because that's only going to turn them into powerless victims. And I just got to say this one, giving your kids heaps of screen time and heaps of processed sugar, it's just not good for them. Okay. There's a physicality to confidence as well. You need to be physically as healthy as you can be to be confident. So even if your kid has disabilities or something like that, they're still the most healthy they can be. And that's what you should always be aiming for, mentally and physically. So trying to make sure they eat the healthiest thing you can afford to put in front of them, trying to make sure that they engage in activities that are good for their mind rather than activities that are bad for their mind. I know sometimes it's inconvenient. We let our kid watch movies sometimes as well. I mean, there's just the limits to practicality. But letting your kid play on an iPad for 5 hours a day when they're 3 years old, that's not good for their brain. There's actually studies to show that their cognitive functioning will be severely affected by that. All right, letting your kid just plow down Coke and sugar and anything they want to eat all day long, it's not good for them. Objectively not good for them. Not good for their confidence. And it breaks my heart to see it. We put in the heavy work up front with our daughter to make sure she ate healthy. We ate healthy with her and we modeled eating healthy as much as we could, with some slips and lapses, no doubt. But the good thing is, like, nowadays, our daughter can have an ice cream or a chocolate bar and then that night also eat a healthy dinner of broccoli and chicken. Whereas I've seen other parents that like use sugar to like placate their kid, like the kid just eats whatever they want whenever they want if it'll shut them up. They all seem to struggle to eat healthy food. Their palate is ruined, if nothing else. They just don't like the taste of healthy food. And there's no need for them to eat it because they can just get the delicious stuff anyway. Um, that's the breeding ground for an eating disorder later on, either obesity or otherwise. And it's also the gateway to becoming addicted to substances. You get used to putting something in your body to make you feel good as an instant gratification. That's not a good thing you want them to be learning. Thank you for showing an interest in the Nice Guy Brotherhood, a group coaching community program for nice guys and people pleasers who want to become more confident and assertive to do better in their relationships and their careers. This is also for any man who wants to become more masculine, more bold, more honest, and more authentic. So in this program, we focus in on a lot of the people pleaser and approval seeking tendencies that hold men back from achieving full self-confidence and healthy relationships. Things like avoiding conflict, trying to fix other people's emotions, molding yourself to other people's preferences, failing to stand up for yourself, not going for what you really want, and not knowing who you really are. The goal, through the support of myself and the other members of the community, is to help you build the backbone to stand up for yourself, to stop caring what other people think of you, to stop getting lost in your thoughts and your feelings, and learn how to act decisively based on your own set of core values rather than what everybody else wants you to do. So we're looking to replace things like conflict avoidance and procrastination and trying to please others with going for what you really want based on who you really are. So we address all these issues through a number of methods. Firstly, we get together each week for a group session. Now, part of that is what's called hot seat coaching, which is somebody gets on the mic with me and we do a coaching session in front of the others, and everybody gives their feedback and support, and we can deal with specific issues that's coming up for that person in their life in relation to building confidence and overcoming nice guy syndrome. We also have group discussions during these calls. We share links and resources, feedback, questions, and everything we can do to support each other's growth. And then also, alongside these group calls, you get access to my full online library of self-development courses, which includes things like building rapport, setting boundaries, and learning to confront your fears. Now, if you're interested in the group, we have a deal where you get your first month for just $1 so that you can try it before you buy it and get a sense if it's really right for you and if these are the people that are going to help you achieve your goals. Once your first month is up, if you want to continue, then we have a monthly membership subscription. It's $250 US per month for full access to everything. This includes the entire archive of recordings from all the calls that we've had so far. And if you come along with a friend, both of you will get a 50% discount for joining together. There's what we call a zero risk guarantee. If at any time you're unsatisfied with the program, you can quit and you'll get your money from the last month given back to you, no questions asked. So come and check it out. If nothing else, for $1, you get access to everything for an entire month. No risk. I'll even return that dollar if you're not satisfied, because that's how confident I am that this program is going to change your life.